The Giannis era in Milwaukee is officially over. After weeks of chaos and selfish play, the two-time MVP is likely heading to the New York Knicks to team up with Jalen Brunson. The Bucks have completely collapsed this season with a terrible 18-25 record. Without Giannis, the team is one of the worst in the league, and their championship identity is gone. Adding to the drama, Giannis is sidelined with a recurring calf injury, raising big questions about his future health. With the team falling apart and chemistry at an all-time low, a massive trade is the only way out.
How do you feel like the team can be more successful in that regard, getting you more shots, getting you more touches?
Look, I'm not the guy. I'm not the guy that will yell and cast his teammate out and demand the ball. I've never done that in my career, but I feel like I've played with teammates that kind of understand, the gravity that I can cause for our team and how I can create for my teammates and for myself, and how I can help the team be more successful. But maybe for some reason, I don't understand. Maybe because we're young, maybe because we're not playing well, maybe because guys think it's their turn.
The Milwaukee Bucks are facing a massive crisis as the February 5th trade deadline looms. After 3 straight first-round playoff exits, the team is completely collapsing. While Giannis hasn't formally asked out, credible sources say he is ready for a new home. The front office, led by John Horst, is under heavy fire for making reactive moves that have gutted the team's future. The biggest disaster was the Damian Lillard experiment. After trading away the legendary Drew Holiday to get Lillard, the Bucks realized the fit was a failure and shockingly waived him just 2 seasons later. This move was a desperate full-court heave to save the Giannis era, but it only made things worse. By stretching Lillard's contract to sign Miles Turner, the Bucks sacrificed elite playmaking for a defensive big man, but the team's record has only plummeted. Now the roster is thin, the bench is weak, and the asset cupboard is completely empty. Milwaukee has almost no draft picks left to fix the mess. When Giannis sits out with injuries, the team's offensive rating becomes one of the worst in the NBA. This proves the roster was poorly built, lacking the depth needed for a championship run. Even LeBron James and league insiders have noticed the instability. Giannis's loyalty brought a title in 2021, but that loyalty has limits when the front office repeatedly undermines the team's competitive chances. With his Supermax extension approaching in 2026, the Bucks are in a corner. They must decide whether to keep building with zero resources or maximize Giannis's trade value while they still can. The optimism is gone, and the tension in the locker room is at an all-time high. The story of the Bucks is no longer about winning. It's about an organizational failure that might force one of the greatest players in history to leave his home. The trade market for Giannis Antetokounmpo has officially reached a fever pitch as the February 5th, 2026 deadline approaches, and with the Milwaukee Bucks sitting at a disastrous 18-27 record, the two-time MVP is finally signaling that he is ready for a new chapter. Despite being 31 years old and currently sidelined with a right calf strain that is expected to keep him out for 4 to 6 weeks, Giannis is still viewed by every front office as a top-tier superstar who sits at the peak of the mountain. Franchises across the league are desperate to acquire him because they know that even with his recent injury history, he is one of the few players on earth who can single-handedly turn a good team into a champion. And the Bucks are fully aware of this value as they demand a massive return, prioritizing blue-chip young prospects, salary relief, and a mountain of draft picks to kickstart their necessary rebuild. While the situation in Milwaukee crumbles, the Miami Heat have emerged as a massive favorite in this race, with reports confirming that the Heat front office is transmitting serious confidence that they can sway the Bucks into a deal. Their offer is built around young star Tyler Hero, rookie sensation Jaime Jaquez Jr., Kel'el Ware, and future first-round picks in 2030 and 2032, a package that offers Milwaukee a mix of immediate talent and future assets. The basketball fit in Miami is terrifying for the rest of the league because pairing Giannis with Bam Adebayo would create the most dominant defensive frontcourt in the NBA, and Pat Riley's legendary culture built on discipline, conditioning, and toughness is the perfect environment to extend Giannis's prime and carefully manage his health for the playoffs. On the West Coast, the Golden State Warriors are also pushing hard and are willing to offer a pick-heavy package along with Jonathan Kuminga because they are in win-now mode and desperate to maximize the final years of Stephen Curry. A Curry-Giannis pick-and-roll would be virtually unstoppable, using Steph's gravity to open wide lanes for Giannis to attack the rim, although there are real questions about spacing and whether Golden State has enough assets to beat other aggressive offers. However, the scenario that has the entire league holding its breath is the New York Knicks, who are reportedly Giannis's preferred destination, and if this trade happens, it changes the balance of power in the NBA forever. Pairing Giannis with Jalen Brunson creates an offensive synergy that is almost impossible to defend because Brunson is an elite three-level scorer who proved during his time in Dallas that he can thrive alongside a ball-dominant superstar. Offensively, this duo fits perfectly because Brunson's ability to shoot and drive puts immense pressure on defenses, meaning when teams collapse to stop Brunson, Giannis gets a free runway to the rim, and when they build a wall for Giannis, Brunson gets wide-open catch-and-shoot opportunities. The Knicks are currently the third best offense in the league, but adding Giannis would push them to number 1 because his ability to grab a rebound and go coast to coast would supercharge New York's transition game, generating easy buckets before defenses can even set up. Defensively, the upgrade is even more critical because the Knicks are currently a middle-of-the-pack defensive team, ranked 17th, which isn't good enough for a title, but Giannis fixes that instantly as a perennial Defensive Player of the Year candidate who offers elite rim protection. With Giannis anchoring the paint, perimeter defenders like OG Anunoby and Mikal Bridges can press up aggressively on ball handlers knowing they have the best help defender in the world behind them, creating a defensive trio that would arguably be the best in the NBA and capable of switching everything to shut down elite offenses. The challenge for New York lies in the cost, because the Knicks are limited on draft capital due to the Mikal Bridges trade, so to match Giannis's $54 million salary, they would likely have to trade away massive pieces like Karl-Anthony Towns or Mikal Bridges. Losing Towns is a tough blow because he provides elite floor spacing that opens up the paint for everyone else, and losing Bridges would hurt their wing depth significantly, creating a roster that is incredibly top-heavy. Additionally, the NBA's strict second apron salary cap rules make executing a mid-season trade extremely difficult without gutting the entire roster, which is why one hypothetical blockbuster trade sees the Knicks sending out Towns, Bridges, and their remaining draft assets to get Giannis and Jeremiah Grant. While this thins out their depth significantly, the logic is simple, because in the playoffs, rotations tighten, and having two top 10 superstars is always more valuable than having depth. Despite the obstacles, the consensus among experts is clear that if the Knicks can pull this off, they become the heavy favorites to win the championship, because the window is open right now with Brunson in his prime at 28 and Giannis still elite at 31. Whether it happens before the February 5th deadline or in the summer, acquiring Giannis Antetokounmpo would be a franchise-altering move that turns the Knicks into a dynasty, leaving the only question as whether New York can make the math work before another team steals him away. Despite the swirling rumors, Giannis's loyalty to Milwaukee remains deeply rooted in his history with the franchise. He signed a Supermax extension in 2020, deliberately choosing to stay with the team that drafted him rather than chasing championships elsewhere. By delivering a title in 2021, he cemented his legacy as the greatest player in Bucks history, and these commitments carry weight far beyond simple contractual obligations. His public statements emphasizing that he would never demand a trade reflect this profound loyalty. Giannis has consistently expressed gratitude for Milwaukee's faith in him during his early development years, and has spoken openly about the city's embrace of him and his family. These personal connections make any potential departure incredibly emotionally complex, even if cold basketball logic suggests a change might benefit his championship aspirations. While teams are quietly preparing packages and conducting internal discussions about potential Giannis trades, Milwaukee is listening to offers and evaluating options, but maintains significant leverage. Without Giannis formally requesting a trade, the Bucks can resist pressure and wait her optimal value or a change in circumstances. The February 5th deadline looms as a critical inflection point for the entire league. If no trade materializes by then, the speculation will inevitably extend into the offseason when more teams can participate with greater cap flexibility. The summer of 2026 would allow for more complex multi-team structures, sign-and-trade possibilities, and time for organizational introspection about long-term direction. Giannis becomes eligible for another Supermax extension starting in October 2026, and this timeline adds massive urgency to Milwaukee's decision-making. If Giannis declines to sign an extension, his trade value would peak in the months leading up to that deadline, as teams could acquire him with confidence in long-term retention. However, if he signs, it would signal a renewed commitment to Milwaukee and potentially end all trade speculation. The Bucks must assess whether their current roster construction can improve enough to satisfy Giannis's championship ambitions. Front office changes, coaching adjustments, or roster overhauls could be implemented in the offseason to demonstrate a renewed organizational commitment to winning. For Giannis, the decision involves a difficult weighing of loyalty against competitive viability. Staying in Milwaukee maintains his legacy and personal connections, but risks wasting his prime years on a non-contending team. Conversely, requesting a trade would maximize his championship chances, but come at the heavy cost of his carefully cultivated image as a loyal franchise player. The Knicks' perspective adds another layer of complexity to this unfolding drama. New York's current roster construction, sitting at 28-18 with legitimate championship aspirations, makes them reluctant to gut their core for an uncertain acquisition. The front office must balance the immense allure of adding Giannis against the risk of dismantling a functional, contending team for a player who may not even be available. The assets required in any Giannis trade would fundamentally alter the Knicks' roster identity, likely involving Karl Anthony Towns, Mikal Bridges, OG Anunoby, and draft picks. Losing multiple key pieces would create holes that even Giannis's brilliance might not immediately fill. The chemistry and continuity built over recent seasons would be disrupted, requiring time for integration and adjustment. Tom Thibodeau's coaching system relies heavily on defensive discipline and roster familiarity, so introducing Giannis mid-season would challenge these principles and force rapid adaptation to new rotations and schemes. The learning curve could cost valuable wins during the critical playoff push, potentially undermining the very championship aspirations that motivated the trade in the first place. Off-season timing would mitigate some of these challenges by providing training camp and preseason for integration, but even with additional preparation time, the talent sacrifice required to acquire Giannis remains substantial. The Knicks must ultimately decide whether their star power upgrade justifies the significant depth compromise. Other contenders face similar difficult calculations regarding a potential pursuit. Miami's assets and organizational appeal make them formidable suitors, but adding Giannis would require sacrificing multiple young players and future picks that represent the foundation of the franchise's post-Heat culture era. Minnesota's fit with Anthony Edwards is undeniably compelling, but asset limitations and salary matching hurdles complicate any potential execution. The Bucks' willingness to listen to offers reflects pragmatic organizational planning rather than an active pursuit of a trade. Front offices routinely gauge market value for their stars, particularly when facing uncertain futures, as listening costs nothing and provides valuable information about potential returns if circumstances change. However, listening differs fundamentally from committing to a deal, and Milwaukee's preference remains keeping Giannis and attempting to build a contender around him. The franchise understands his value extends far beyond on-court production to encompass marketing, fan engagement, and organizational prestige, meaning trading him would signal a reset that ownership and management would prefer to avoid. For Knicks fans and observers, the Giannis speculation represents both a tantalizing possibility and a cautionary reminder. The hypothetical fit alongside Brunson showcases immense championship potential, but the execution hurdles, assets, cap space, and organizational reluctance make it unlikely to materialize exactly as envisioned. Hope must be tempered by reality, as the coming weeks determine whether this remains speculation or transforms into reality. That wraps up this video, so for more interesting videos like this, be sure to check out the cards on your screen.